I will bring this meeting to order. This is the February 2nd, 2021 meeting of the Landmark Preservation Committee, and I'm calling the meeting to order. So we will start with the introduction of the commissioners, and I'll begin with myself since I'm already speaking. My name is Julie Johnson, and I am a Historic Preservation Project Manager, and I am nominated from the community at large. Jeanette, you next.
Hi, Jeanette Chapman. I'm an attorney and historic district resident nominated by History Colorado.
Thank you, Brad.
My name is Brad Gassman. I'm an architect nominated by History Colorado.
Excellent. Erin.
Hi, I'm Erin Hummel. I'm a landscape architect, and I was nominated by the American Society of Landscape Architects.
Thanks, Erin. Graham.
My name is Graham Johnson. I'm also a Historic Preservation Project Manager and was nominated by the Denver Planning Board.
Gary.
My name is Gary Petrie, and I'm an architect, and I was nominated by the Denver Planning Board.
Erica.
I'm Erica Warzel. I'm an architectural historian and preservation consultant and an at-large member.
Thank you. Anne.
I'm Ann Wattenberg. I'm an architect nominated by the American Institute of Architects.
Great. Thanks, everybody. We do have one meeting record for approval, the January 19, minutes from the January 19 meeting. Does anyone have any comments or any clarifications that they wish to make? Gary.
It's a question, I think.
Okay.
For the 918 North York Street project, 2020 COA 433.
Mm-hmm.
It says the motion was made with conditions, but there are no conditions listed. And I'm wondering if there's either condition, I can't remember. Are there conditions missing, or should we strike the word with conditions?
That was the windows, the transom windows, right? Was a condition.
At the sunroom.
On. Yeah.
The sunroom, yeah.
I remember that. I think you're right, Gary. It was.
So we should strike it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I move to correct that item by striking the words with conditions, and then move to approve the meeting minutes for January 19th as corrected.
Thanks, Gary. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Erin. All righty, let's vote on that. And thanks, by the way, Gary, for catching that. Jeanette.
Aye.
Brad.
Aye.
Erin.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Gary.
Aye.
Erica.
Aye.
Anne.
Aye.
And Julie, I also say aye. All right, great. We have, at the beginning of every meeting, we have public comment, which is limited to 2 minutes per person. This is not project specific. If you would like to join by phone, please email landmark@denvergov.org. And if you're joining via computer, please raise your hand function on the computer in the Zoom program.
Great, we have Keith Pryor. So I'm unmuting you, Keith. You're allowed to, you need to unmute yourself and then.
Yep. Great. Hello. Thank you so much for all you do. So I just wanted to address a couple of the comments that came from last meeting we had as far as Curtis Park. Keith Pryor, 2418 Champa, Design Review Chair of Curtis Park Neighbors. And that is in regards to the height and in regards to zoning. And zoning is actually a relatively new thing to Denver, as many of you know. Zoning wasn't really adopted until the 1950s, well before our period of significance for Curtis Park was even adopted. We were built in the 1880s and all the way up until the 1910, and there was no zoning. And so to impose today's period of thinking that, well, because zoning says that is a guideline, and that's why we have administrative adjustments, we cannot write a zoning code that Curtis Park would fit in. There is no way. It wouldn't be a PUD, and it's not URH 2.5. And so we have to use workarounds, and one of those workarounds is actually the administrative adjustments, which you guys have the power to do because we are a very unique district. We have varying heights, some of which are over the 30 feet, which is in our character defining feature. And so to rely on an argument that zoning says is not appropriate for this district. And we really need to look at the context of the district and really work within what we know as our district, because zoning, as much as we like to have it apply, we don't have that tool in which could be that specific for our community. And so that's why we rely on you guys to use your judgment and the administrative adjustment to really look at this as a whole. And I know that this particular block is a very difficult one because there is no other things on it, but just to say, well, zoning says 30 feet really doesn't work because this neighborhood was not built when zoning even was a concept. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Keith. Yeah, your time is up. Thank you very much, Keith. I appreciate your comment. Is there anyone else? Jennifer, do we have anybody else lined up for public speaking?
I don't see any other hands raised. Let me just check the inbox real fast. I don't.
Sure, of course.
There's no one on the phone, so I don't imagine anyone is.
Okay.
Nope.
All right, excellent. Then we will go on to the consent agenda. These are routine design items that meet the design guidelines and are recommended to the commission for approval without discussion. Any commission member can request an item to be taken off and moved to the design review. Also, commissioners, does anyone need to recuse yourself having any conflicts of interest in either of these? It does not look like it. All right. First, we have 2020-TAXC-009-359 Bannock Street in the Baker District. Then we have 2020-TAXC-011-748 Race Street, East 7th Avenue. Does anyone wish to make comments on these or make a motion to accept as presented? I don't see any comments, so is there a motion? Graham?
Sure, Madam Chair, I'll move to approve the consent agenda. Items 2020-TAXC-009 for 359 Bannock Street and 2020-TAXC-011 for 748 Race Street.
Thank you, Graham. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Gary, thank you. All right, then we will do a roll call vote. Jeanette?
Aye.
Brad?
Aye.
Erin?
Aye.
Graham?
Aye.
Gary?
Aye.
Erica?
Aye.
Ann? And Julie, I also say aye. So the consent agenda passes as it was presented. If you were listening to the meeting right now and your item was on the consent agenda, you can drop off. You're welcome to stay with us for the entire agenda, but we won't need to chat with you later during the meeting. The next is a public hearing was scheduled for today. 2020-LMD EMO-406 2847 Stout Street in Curtis Park. And the description was for more than 40% structure demolition. The recommendation from the staff is that we reset the public hearing for March 2nd, 2021. Could I hear a motion from the commissioners that to that effect, please?
Madam Chair, this is Brad. I move to reset the public hearing for March 2nd, 2021 for project number 2020-LMDEMO-406 at 2847 Stout Street in Curtis Park.
Brad, thank you. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Erin, I'm going to give it to Erin.
Twice.
All right. Thanks, Erin. Let's do a roll call vote then. Jeanette?
Aye.
Brad?
Aye.
Erin?
Aye.
Graham?
Aye.
Gary?
Aye.
Erica?
Aye.
Ann?
Aye.
And Julie also votes aye. So the public hearing, Crystal, we will see you and your project on March 2nd, 2021. Thanks very much, everybody. So now we're going to get into the design review. I will announce the design review items in the agenda in the order of the address. Commission members will let us know if they have any conflicts of interest or need to recuse themselves. The applicant has 10 minutes to make their presentation to the staff. After the staff application, staff gives their application and recommendation. And then public comment, people are allowed 2 minutes to comment on each design review on the agenda. First up, we have Brittany Bryant with 2020-COA-440 at 101 Race Street in the Country Club District. Brittany, take it away.
So our first project is for the Phase 2 Design Detail Review for 101 Race Street in Country Club Historic District. The Phase 1 mass form and context was approved by the Commission on November 3rd. And then the Commission previously reviewed a Phase 2 submittal on January 5th, but continued that application due to some discrepancies in the application materials and just wanting additional clarity on the project proposal. The overall massing has not been revised. The project is a Mediterranean revival style home on a vacant lot with a attached garage and new curb cut onto Race Street, as there is not an alley in this part of the city. This is the landscape plan. In the prior submittal, there were several discrepancies with the landscape plan and the site plan. The applicant has clarified both of those items, and the landscape plan and the site plan now match. In terms of the paving material, the applicant is proposing a concrete driveway for the curb cut and then a flagstone walkway for the front walkway, a flagstone patio in the rear, and also some crushed gravel walkways around the site. The Country Club design guidelines do talk about differentiating the walkway to the front of the structure and the driveway. So we do feel that that is meeting the Country Club design guidelines for that requirement. In the previous submittal, there was some notations about raising the height of the existing site wall on the south side of the site along East First Avenue. The applicant has clarified that there will be no changes to the existing site wall on the along East First Avenue. There will be some new site walls at the rear of the property, but they're very low in nature and will be of materials to match the primary structure, and a detail of those have been provided in the updated packet. In the prior submittal, there was a fountain proposed for the rear yard that has been eliminated from the project scope, so we no longer have concerns over details of that fountain not being provided. Here we just have the floor plans. There were some concerns before about the site plan and the basement plan showing egress window wells in different locations. That has all been clarified. Again, no major changes to the massing. I just wanted to bring in this plan to show that there is a egress window in the basement at the rear of the property. And then there will be a light well window at the front of the property, but it's not coplanar with the front facade, and we'll have some setback there to provide for that. So we don't have concerns over that egress light well there. The primary facade will be clad in stucco. In the prior submittal, there were some concerns over what type of stucco would be used. There were some discrepancies in the manufacturer submitted materials and what was noted in the elevation. The applicant has clarified that it will be a 3-coat genuine stucco, which is required by our general design guidelines, and it will have a crystal white finish with our crystal white color with a mission finish on it, which is what is required. There was also some concerns over some notations not being clear in the submittal. The applicant has clarified that. So there are no longer overlays with material notations overlapping each other and dimensions overlapping material notations on the elevations. So that has all been clarified. All of the windows will be aluminum clad windows. Most of them are casement style operation, and there are a few fixed style operations in this project submittal. In the prior submittal, there was also some concerns over the light fixtures. The applicant has revised the submitted light fixtures, but there is still 2 fixtures proposed to surround the front door, and I do have details on those later on in the submittal. These are just side elevations. This is the rear of the garage and the rear of the property. This is the north elevation as well. Again, just clarification on those materials. No major changes at this time to those materials, just really clarifying what was in the prior submittal. Again, this is the rear elevation. The large patio door that you see in the rear elevation will be a steel door, which we are not concerned with because it is at the rear of the property and is not visible from the public right of way. You can see that low site wall that is proposed in this elevation. Again, that will be stucco with a cap to match the primary structure. So we do feel that that site wall is appropriate, and we are very glad that applicant has provided details on that site wall. This elevation will also have a light fixture style on it. There are 3 fixture styles proposed, a unique fixture for around the front door, a different fixture for around the garage doors, and then a 3rd fixture that will be used on the rear elevation that you see noted here. The garage elevation, again, where the applicant has provided clarity on how those light fixtures will attach to this facade. Again, they have changed the fixture style that was previously proposed, but there was a hanging style fixture proposed before, and it wasn't clear how it would attach to the garage facade. All of the fixtures are a unique style, but the garage fixture and the fixture on the rear are the same fixture with a different attachment detail. So you can find more information on that in your packet. We did have some concerns over details not being provided to this exterior patio space. So the applicant has provided additional details on that patio space. Again, it'll just be a timber frame structure with stucco cladding, and then those cast stone columns that are proposed to match the stucco finish. And then some operable wood shutters on the facade as well. This is just a section detail of the project proposal. Again, this is just clarity on how the fixtures attach, the stucco finish, and those details. We don't have any major concerns over the section details that we are seeing submitted in the project proposal. Here is a detail of the front door, and you can see that those lantern style fixtures that are proposed for that door surround, that will also be cast stone to make it unique from the building facade. In the prior submittal, there were not details provided on the egress light wells. The applicant has provided those details now, and they will be a concrete egress light well, which is a high quality material and meets our design standards and guidelines. So we feel that that is an appropriate justification. Here are the material samples. Again, clarity on the stucco finish and color. During the last submittal, there were concerns over the tile that was proposed. The applicant was proposing a red and burgundy blend tile. The Country Club design guidelines do talk about tile roofs, roofs in general should be of a muted finish and be appropriate to the surrounding context. So the commission did have questions on how that 2-color patterning would be used on the roof. And the applicant has since revised the submittal to be a Ludovici clay Spanish barrel tile in the Impressionist blend, which you can see shown here in this image. We do feel that it is generally a muted color palette and typical of the surrounding historic context. So we do feel that it is meeting the country club guidelines there on the roofing and we do feel that we have been provided additional information on what that blended color will look like. So we do feel that the roofing is meeting the guidelines. Here we just have the windows. They will be simulated divided lights with a spacer bar, again, aluminum clad wood, which is a high quality material that we approve all the time within our districts. So we do feel that the windows are appropriate. Here we have the fixture styles. So as you can see, the garage and all other exterior fixtures are the same fixture style with a different attachment detail. And then the entry is a lantern style. They're all copper finish. They're a little more elaborate than we would maybe see elsewhere, but the country club design guidelines do allow for more replicative fixtures. So we don't have any major concerns over the fixture details. We feel there will be several other details on the facade that distinguish it as new construction. So we're not concerned over the fixtures that are proposed. So as the applicant has addressed all of the concerns from the last review of the design detail submittal, we are recommending approval because the project is using high quality materials. We feel that is compatible with the Country Club Historic District, and we are recommending approval at this time.
Oh, Brittany, thank you very much. Commissioners, do you have any questions for staff? Okay, all righty. Emily, do we have someone who would, is the applicant here that would like to be moved over so they can talk to us?
Hello. Let me see. A second ago, they had not shown up, but we have John Mattingly.
Okay.
And it looks like he's the only one.
Okay.
And I will ask him. I'll move him over right now.
Okay, terrific. Thanks, Emily.
Sure.
Hello, is the applicant there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Hi there. Yes, we can hear you very well. Thank you. Could you please state your name and your address, and you will have 10 minutes to talk about your application.
Thank you. John Mattingly, 517 East Bayard Avenue, Denver 80218 or 09. I'm sorry. I think Brittany did a wonderful job summing up the general idea of this proposed residence. The idea was a Mediterranean revival style house that was very slender in form. I think we talked about that during the form and scale review. And we wanted to complement it with very subtle detailing. It's really more about the thickness of the walls and the structure. So the plaster finish goes over a 2x10 wall. So we'll be able to get a nice deep reveal on the windows, and both on the inside and outside. And we picked a muted tile that would be soft. You know, part of that was based on the tile roofs on the surrounding houses are a little bit more orange and red. And so we wanted something a little softer. Really the only ornamentation that we're seeing on the house are those light fixtures, which, you know, my client was pretty excited about those as something that does create a little contrast and style compared to the more muted tone of the rest of the building. We tried to do, you know, deliberately kind of a simple window fenestration on the house also, which was a little bit more sensitive to, you know, maybe a more historical context. But, you know, we didn't want to go crazy big on the front windows and the risk of making it feel too contemporary. So I'm not sure what else to add on the detailing. It's, I think it's pretty straightforward in the details that we provided, the thickness of the windows, and we don't have any areas of wood paneling that would be different from how we're placing the windows inside the walls. So the stucco that we're using is a La Abra plaster finish, and so it is cementitious. There's a brown coat, 2 coats of brown that go on, and then that particular coat, which provides, real subtle texture. It will show little spider cracks throughout the, the plaster if you get up close to it, but it adds a lot of depth even though it's a flat surface. So we're pretty excited about just having the ability to present something with all of these special ingredients and its subtlety. So I think that's all I have to add.
Okay, John, thank you. Let's see if there, commissioners, are there any questions for John, the applicant? No, no questions? All righty, John, thank you very much. Jen Capetto, are there any people here for public comment? Those of you who wish to make public comments would have 2 minutes to comment on this project.
I don't see anyone raising their hand, and we don't have anyone on the phone, so.
And nobody at the web building, looks like.
Correct. Becca's going to let us know if there is someone who's there.
Okay, great. All righty. Well, thank you very much. I think at this point, then the commission will go into deliberation. All right, commissioners, any comments? What all do you think?
This is Brad. I'll start off. I think they've done a good job responding to some of the earlier concerns, and I think the project does a really good job of meeting the guidelines, and it'll be a nice addition to the neighborhood.
Thanks, Brad. I see some nodding heads. Who would like to comment?
This is Erica. I'll just add that one particular thing I was interested to see in this kind of resubmittal was the tile roof, and was glad to see the kind of muted color scheme that they went with. I think that's appropriate. Even though there might be some brighter examples on historic buildings in the district, I think this is the right choice for this house to blend in and meet the design guidelines for the country club. So I'm in full support of this application.
Yeah, Erica, I agree with you. I thought that was a nice touch. Anyone else like to comment? I just want to comment and say those are fabulous light fixtures. I would love to use those on a project. Would anyone like, it sounds like we're headed to consensus. Would anyone like to motion to approve said project as presented?
Yeah, Madam Chair, this is Brad. I'll make the motion. I move to approve application number 2020-COA-440 for the new infill construction phase 2 design detail review at 101 Race Street as per Country Club design guidelines B1 through B6, C4, D1 through D5, E1 through E2, F1, F3, and the Denver Landmark Design Guidelines 4.6, 4.8, 5.3, 5.9, and 5.21, character defining features for the Country Club Historic District, presented testimony, submitted documentation, and information provided in the staff report.
Brad, thank you. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Graham Johnson seconded. We'll go ahead and do a roll call vote then. Jeanette?
Aye.
Brad?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
Graham?
Aye.
Gary?
Aye.
Erica?
Aye.
Anne?
Aye.
And Julie also votes aye. The motion has passed. Congratulations. Now we are on to our next project in the design review. It is 2021-COA-024 at 495 High Street in Driving Park District. And it's Abby Christman who is up.
Okay, just working just a second here to see if I can get the slides to advance.
There you are. Hi, Abby.
Hello. There we go. Okay, so 495 High Street in Driving Park. So the applicant is requesting to demolish the existing single-car detached garage that you see here. Garage was constructed circa 1921. And they want to replace it with a 2-car garage with an attached shed. The historic garage is accessed from 5th Avenue via a curb cut. The proposed new garage will retain the same orientation and the same curb cut. The applicant initially proposed creating a larger curb cut to fit the 2-car garage they're proposing. but staff was not supportive of this option. The existing curb cut is a historic configuration, and staff felt enlarging the curb cut to a contemporary configuration would be visually intrusive. Guideline 5.3F states, avoid introducing new readily visible site features such as curb cuts, which are not historically present on the property or prevalent in the historic district. While there are some larger curb cuts located within the district, most of these appear to be of a more recent construction. Okay, so here for some context, we have the house, which is associated with the garage, and some additional photographs there of the garage showing more detail. So this is located in the Driving Park Historic District, which has a period of significance from 1880 to 1942. Garage construction dates are included in the Driving Park designation application, but garages are not specifically called out as being either contributing or non-contributing structures in the district. The application identifies the garage at 495 High Street as constructed circa 1921, which is 7 years after the construction of the primary residence, which was circa 1914. However, the garage does not appear to have been, sorry, I'm going to start this sentence over again. However, the garage does appear to have been designed to fit with the primary residence. So even though it was constructed later, they do appear to, have tried to reference the bungalow design using brick construction, like the original brick bungalow, and overhanging eaves with exposed rafter tails. So the applicant is proposing to demolish this garage, which is dependent, the process going forward is dependent on whether or not the commission feels that this is non-contributing or whether or not they feel it has a potential to be contributing. So if you were to determine contributing, that would be a separate process and a public hearing. The commission has previously found a few garages within the district to be contributing, but has also approved a number of garages within the district for demolition. The garage at 495 High Street is very visible within the district due to its location on a corner lot and the fact that it faces onto Fifth Avenue. However, it's a simple, small-scale utilitarian building that, while constructed during the period of significance, was not associated with the original construction of the property. As such, Landmark staff does not find that it significantly contributes to the character of the district or the understanding of the historical development. The Landmark ordinance definition of contributing is contributing shall mean a structure or feature that adds to the historic, architectural, geographic, or cultural significance of a structure for preservation, or a structure in a district for preservation. The ordinance definition of non-contributing is non-contributing shall mean a structure or feature that does not add to the historic, architectural, geographic, or cultural significance of a structure for preservation or in a district for preservation. So if the commission finds that they think the garage is contributing, then a public hearing would need to be set for the garage demolition. So here we have a site plan showing the existing garage. So the existing garage is small, one bay, 281 square feet. You can see they're located at the rear of the lot, but accessed via the side street, the East Fifth Avenue, rather than being accessed via the alley. So here is the proposed site plan for the new garage. So the new garage is 737 square feet. It maintains the same alignment and orientation as the historic garage. Also proposes to use a gable roof form. The design as proposed does not meet zoning requirements. So the applicant is also requesting LPC support in resolving several zoning issues. These are that the north roof gable encroaches into the bulk plane. The garage encroaches 2 feet 6 inches into the Fifth Avenue side street setback. And the garage doors do not face the alley. Though zoning requires that vehicle doors must face the alley if an alley is present. So the LPC may recommend an administrative adjustment for buildings or additions that violate the bulk plane if the LPC finds that conforming with the zoning code height or bulk plan restrictions would have an adverse impact upon the historic character of the landmark or historic district. The LPC may also write letters of support to the Board of Adjustment for other zoning issues. So if the commission finds that complying with zoning requirements would have an adverse impact on the historic district, then the commission can move to recommend approval of a variance by the Board of Adjustment. So here are the plans for the new garage. So the new garage will have a front gable form that's facing onto Fifth Avenue with a side gable structure at the rear. So this kind of creates an irregular building footprint with the rear side gable portion of the building offset from the front gable portion of the building. The irregular footprint is not characteristic of historic garages within the district, which typically feature a simple rectangular form. However, the proposed design will resemble a garage that has a shed addition added onto it. This appearance will be emphasized by the use of different cladding for the two building portions, with brick used for the front main gabled garage and painted shingles used as the cladding for the rear side gable section. So here is a collection of Sanborn maps. A little bit of research I did, came up question reviewing this. You know, what is the predominant district pattern? Is it for having the access from the street via curb cut, or is it via the alley? So the one that you see up here in the top left corner, that is 495 High, that's intersection. So these are all excerpts from the 1929 Sanborn map, taking at intersections along 4th Avenue and 5th Avenue within the historic district, just trying to get an idea of what the patterns are. So the blue circles show garages that were accessed directly from the street via a curb cut, and the purple show garages that were placed on the alley. So looking at this and taking a broader look at the, through Google Earth and other aerial and images, it really appears that it's pretty mixed. So there were certainly garages that were accessed from the street, but there were certainly garages, even ones that were on corners, that were accessed from the alley as well. So staff finds that the precedent is, for properties that were, had both garages accessed from the street and access via the alley. The proposed placement will face 5th Avenue using the existing curb cut, but based on this kind of study and look at the district, staff finds that if in order to meet zoning that a garage needed to face onto the alley instead, that would be equally compatible with the district. If the applicant was proposing to replicate the historic garage, then there might be more of an argument for wanting to maintain the original placement and orientation to really have that appearance. But though the new garage is proposed to have a front gable like the historic garage, the differences in width and overall scale are so different that staff doesn't really feel that it's really, replicating the historic garage. So we really feel either one would fit. It's a new garage, it's simple, its design fits the district, we're fine. We think the new garage is compatible, but we think either placement would fit with district patterns, either facing onto the street or facing onto the alley. We find either option would meet guideline of 4.18, which states that new garages should be located to reinforce surrounding historic development patterns, and 4.18.a, which states that new garages be located within the typical range of locations for garages and secondary structures in the surrounding historic context. So Landmark does not find that an administrative adjustment or letter of recommendation to the Board of Adjustment is justified in this instance. So since we do not find that following the zoning code would have an adverse impact on the district. There seems to be multiple options for revising the design of the garage to meet the zoning code while still being able to meet landmark guidelines. So the size of the proposed garage could be reduced so that it could be set further back from 5th Avenue and would not need to project into the setback. The roof of the proposed garage could be changed to a flat or a hipped roof, which are both also, roofing types found for garages in the district. The historic garage could be retained and a garage addition added for a second car to the rear. The garage could be oriented to be accessed from the alley. So as a result, staff finds that these are zoning issues and not landmark issues. So staff would recommend that the LPC take no stance one way or the other on them. The applicant would still be able, if the commission approves the demolition and the new garage, the applicant would still be able to pursue a Board of Adjustment variation under one of the other variance criteria. But if the commission does find that any of these recommendations that you do feel are appropriate, that it, would help the character of the district to have either an administrative adjustment or a BOA variance, I did include at the end of the staff report those motions. So if you want to add that on, that's at the end of the staff report. So conclusion, we're recommending approval for the demolition and for the proposed new garage, but we're recommending no stance on the various zoning issue requests.
Okay, Abby, thank you very much. Commissioners, do you have any questions for staff?
This is Erica. I did just want to, I guess, clarify. So I see, Abby, that you have no kind of motion or item for us to discuss as far as contributing or non-contributing status of the garage. So I assume that's not an issue then.
Well, so if you determine it non-contributing, then it's not an issue and you would just make this motion. If you found it contributing, then you would, deny this application and move to set a public hearing for the demolition.
So, but the finding of non-contributing or contributing status doesn't need to be part of the motion?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, we will discuss that before we get into the garage itself. Anybody else have a question for Abby? No? Okay, great. Emily, is the applicant with us?
Yes, I just moved over Pamela and I'm moving Patrick right now.
Okay, great.
There you go.
Great. To the applicant, please state your name and address before speaking, and then you will have 10 minutes to make your application. And Jen Capetta will hold up a cell phone that has the time on there, so if you need to keep a time check on it.
And I'm not fully sure why this is not, oh, I think I know why.
Yeah,
Sorry.
we had a, yeah.
I'm switching the slideshow and yeah.
Okay, great.
2 computers at once, a little too many for me right now.
Yeah, I understand. Trust me. All right, to the applicant, if you're with us and you're ready, please begin.
Well, this is Patrick Ashen, 2160 South Milwaukee Street. The owner here sent in this PowerPoint presentation, but I don't see him on the participant list here yet.
We accidentally forgot to move him over, so I just did.
All right.
We had 2 stewards, so sorry about that.
Yes. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Yeah, and I think maybe, this presentation was originally just to walk through things with Abby, so it was helpful for that, but I think there's a lot more detail than we need to talk to. Abigail, thank you for Abby laying everything out. Probably easiest to start out actually just staying on this slide, because one of the things we're looking for support on is the gable roof on the north facing or side street facing of the garage. And the reason for that, we'd be open to doing a hip roof, but for 2 reasons we would like to maintain, or 3 really, gable. 1, we don't feel that it impedes upon, there's no shadow on a neighboring property or anything of that nature. Also, you can see the north side of our house, the architectural detail of all of the gables, it would kind of flow with that, and adding a hip to it just for the sake of bulk plane would just not fit with the house any longer. And also, as you look around the neighborhood, there aren't a whole lot of hipped roofs because they're oftentimes done for gable purposes. So, that's the comment I'd like to make on the gable versus hipping it. Again, we'd be open to gabling it, but we just feel that hipping it, but we feel that the gable actually would look much nicer with the north side of the house flowing with that. The next two are the orientation and the setback, and maybe just go to slide 5, who's ever doing it. There's a bunch of other stuff in here. Yeah, that one right there. So what I did, much like what Abby did, I did a recent view of the blocks around us. I did include other pictures, but we can just focus on this one maybe. So the blue star, you'll see that's our home. And then the blue arrow is the orientation of our current garage, which you've already seen. To the west or left, looking at the screen, right across the alley, that garage is a 2-car. It faces 5th Ave. And actually, one of the challenges is it's right up against the property line or the alley. So 2 reasons for not wanting to orient the garage differently than it is currently and having it to the alley. One is we'd have a little bit of an Austin Powers K-turn to get in there with a 5-foot setback. Second, adding a 5-foot setback would just further encroach in our yard, which we're trying to maintain somewhat of a yard, which I know in our neighborhood, those are unfortunately disappearing more and more. So we'd like to maintain that for our dogs and our children and just well-being. So the location of their garage, we feel, since it's not set back and it's oriented towards 5th, it really keeps it pretty tight for us and a bit of a hindrance. Then you'll also see going up and down, really most of the garages now, and I understand some of these have been since the 20s or whatnot, are orienting towards 5th Avenue. Caddy corner from us and right across 5th, you see an arrow pointing left. Their garage does go towards the alley, but across the alley, you'll see 2 arrows pointing south. Sorry for all these arrows. That's really just big concrete pads. So essentially that's a bunch of cars parked there because it's an 8-unit, quite a pretty, but an 8-unit apartment building. So they've got a lot of turn-in space there to have a garage facing the alley and providing there aren't a bunch of cars parked there. So that's a little bit in terms of the orientation of where it is. The other thing is the depth of a garage. We'd like to preserve our yard, but also not have this massive wall along 5th of the side of a garage, which isn't really common for the neighborhood anyway. Most of them are facing 5th. Along the lines of that, the other one is the setback. So the setback of 5th, or I think it's within inches, but we're asking to maintain the current setback, which aligns with the setback of the house. I think it's a little bit inside or south of the setback of our house, but it's also in line with the other garages that you're seeing arrows pointing 5th. They're all at the same setback. So if you were to look down the sidewalk, you'd really see them all at that. And by setting it back another, we're talking, I think 2.5 feet, you would just have that much more concrete facing 5th. And I'd like to avoid having concrete facing 5th, which is the dominant area that people are seeing, from 5th as they drive by. But then also, it's the opportunity for someone to park there in a sort of parallel way. And we'd like to avoid that as well, because it kind of junks up 5th, if you will, when we're already trying to get cars, off the side streets. So I think those are the 3 items we're asking for support on. Again, the gable roof, just kind of summarizing the gable roof, we'd reluctantly be willing to hip it. We just think it would frankly look much better. And we're residents of the area and take this very seriously. In terms of, we're not flipping the house. We've been here for 10 years and hope to be here forever. So that is our intention with the gable, and then through the argument I made on the orientation of the garage going towards 5th. So I think that was it. Pat, if there's anything else, and I think Pam's on as well.
I think that's a good summary. It seems, however, that a great many of these old small garages have been replaced here, and even though the footprint is quite a bit larger than the current garage, it really does provide 2 cars and some storage, which is frankly a kind of an essential urban amenity in Denver these days. I don't find that it's excessive in any manner. And I think trying to maintain the footprint of the structure as much as possible along the alley simply provides, a better yard and patio amenity for this space. And I think the roof form really is significantly important. In thinking of all the bungalows in this area and other parts of the city that have big gable roofs, you hardly ever see a hip roof garage. They're just really, really uncommon. So I think there are some compelling reasons for the commission to support some of the zoning variances that are required. We were conscious of these required variances when we started the design, and we feel that they're significant for the success of the project.
And thank you, Pat. One other quick thing to note, because Abby had laid out sort of the, I don't want to say irregular footprint, but how it sort of jogs over. That was very intentional in that we didn't want, the view coming down Fifth, looking down the alley, again, like our neighbor, because it's sort of a massive wall going down. So we thought by setting it back, it changes the appearance of the mass of the structure. And then on the house side, by reorienting the roof and bumping it in, I think 6 inches or so, and changing the material, it does make it seem to flow at the house a little bit, which is also brick and painted shingle. So we really tried to keep that cottagey bungalow look to it, even though that shed off the back you really won't be able to see from anywhere except for our yard. So anyway, thank you for the opportunity. And
of course, Stuart, could you, just for the record, could you just state your name and address for the record? Thank you.
Of course, yes. Stu Lawrence, 495 High Street. And I think also on listening is Pam Lawrence, also at 495 High Street.
Great. Thank you very much. Commissioners, have you any questions for the applicants? No? Okay, I don't see any questions at all for the applicants. Let's see. Do we have anybody from the public that would like to make comments on this, Jen?
Don't see any hands raised.
Okay.
Nope.
Okay, staff, would you like to make any comments before the commission goes into deliberation?
No, I don't have anything else.
Okay, great. All righty. Well, then let's go ahead and go into deliberation. We have, oh, my view just changed again. We have a couple of.
That's just me changing the slides. So
Jen, I tell you what, it must be Groundhog Day. So I thought maybe we would begin by discussing, I mean, all of this hinges on whether or not we find this to be contributing or non-contributing. Are there any thoughts from the commission about the staff's recommendation to find it non-contributing?
Madam Chair, I'll jump in.
Please.
Just based on, it seems like it's a popular year for garages and driving park, right? I feel like we've seen a number of them. But if my memory is correct, we have not counted them as contributing in 2 previous applications that we've reviewed recently. I think it matches the original house beautifully, but I know that in similar circumstances in the same district that we have not recently counted them as contributing based on staff's recommendations.
Great. Graham, anybody else wish to comment?
This is Erica. I just would, I think this has been, as Graham said, this past year, there's been a lot of garages to look at. And that's something that as a newer commission member, I think I'm still coming to terms with. I certainly understand the need for 2-car garages in this day and age. And I'm not looking to, make life in a historic district more difficult. And I really don't feel like this is a project to stake a claim on that. But I guess I just want to express my discomfort with designations like driving park that don't provide one way or the other contributing status for garages, yet provide information on their historic construction, which to me kind of has an implicit stance on how they do contribute to the character of the district. I think that's a larger discussion, and I'm not looking to raise that today, but I just kind of want to register that discomfort and hope that we can maybe have a conversation about this issue at a later date and not to, put it on one applicant.
Yeah, I agree, Erica. I feel a little bit of discomfort as well. Thank you for stating your concern. Any other commissioners want to opine? All right, then going ahead, assuming this is non-contributing, which it looks like we're in agreement. So they have raised a couple of other items, the gable roof versus the hipped roof and the orientation of the garage and the size. There are a couple of things that we can discuss here. Would someone like to start to comment?
I can start.
Sure, thanks. Great.
Hi, this is Anne. I don't actually have a problem with the orientation of the doors towards Fifth Avenue because I think that the Sanborn map and so forth has shown that there really is a mix within the neighborhood. But I do find myself sort of perplexed by the complexity of the form, and especially it sort of looks like two buildings that have been melded together. Mm-hmm. And I'm not really convinced. The main house is so beautiful and it has all sorts of planes back and forth and so forth, but it looks like the material is all the same exterior material. It's been painted the same color and it breaks it up in a very subtle way. And this design, especially not only the change in planes, but the change in materials and the change in roof forms seems unnecessarily busy to me and not so subordinate to the main house. And I think that I could see that maybe the plan with the breakup is fine. I just think the materials and the roofing form seem like a little too busy for a subordinate structure.
Thanks, Anne. I was concerned about the roof structures as well. Would somebody else like to, any other commissioners comment? Erica?
And I was just wondering if you could speak a little bit more about the roof form and your concern with it. I'm just wondering, I think the applicant makes a compelling argument for keeping a gable form facing Fifth Avenue. And I guess I'm wondering about the gable addition, quote unquote addition. Should that be gable? Is that what makes it unnecessarily busy? Or I would just be curious as to your thoughts on that.
Looks like Gary also has something to.
Well, and I agree with what's been said. I think it does look like two buildings were kind of attached to one another rather than one building with an addition. Because if one was going to do a sympathetic, if one was assuming that the two-car garage existing and you're going to put a sympathetic addition to that garage to increase its storage, you would do something simpler. And I don't want to redesign, but if the addition was directly behind the two-car portion, slightly set in from either side by some dimension, and then a kind of a lean-to or hipped lean-to roof, much more simpler form, and it would be one I think would be more architecturally consistent with the craftsman style or bungalow style of the existing house. And so I would suggest that, and then given that, include all the additional recommendations to pursue the zoning adjustment and the bulk plan adjustment. I think the front gable facing the street is appropriate. In fact, I agree with the owner that a hip roof would make the building less compatible with the character of the neighborhood.
Okay, Gary. Anne, did you want to comment?
I agree with what Gary said, and I think that it's, I think the simplicity is particularly appropriate given what it's replacing, which is a truly historic, which is a structure which is within the period of significance, which is just a very simple, really lovely, utilitarian structure, which I totally understand why it's coming down. But I think it's funny. I agree with what Gary said. I don't think that this is the appropriate, has the complexity, especially when you think of the roofs coming together, is in the spirit of what it is we're taking down, what it is that's being demolished.
Okay. Brad, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm in agreement with what everyone has said so far. I'm supportive of the curb cut on Fifth remaining. I think that works really well. It stays consistent with what historically has been there. Overall, I agree. I think the form is just overly complicated, and I think it could be simplified. Like Gary mentioned, just a simple shed form or something to the end, or it could even be that same gable form that's just set in a little bit. But I think there's, the change in material for such a small building doesn't seem like it's quite necessary either. So I think there's just some overall simplification that can make this a stronger project and better meet the guidelines.
Okay, Brad, thanks. Graham?
But, I don't know that I have anything new to add. I do agree that the gable roof, coming into the gable roof as opposed to a more simple shed, like Gary said, makes a lot of sense to me. But I do see the move in an existing garage look with an addition. Kind of appreciate that. But otherwise, in agreement with what's being said.
Okay, all right. Does anyone else have any other comments about the proposed garage? All right, so this is a question for me for staff. So we're fine with finding the shed or the garage non-contributing, but we're concerned about the complexity of the design for the new garage. So does that change, Abby, how does that change the motion going forward?
I think for the simplest here, you should just deny it because there's a couple options, for how they could redesign to meet those concerns. One thing I would say is it sounds like everyone's okay with if they simplify this garage, then doing the zoning recommendations. So if that is the case, then at least this would still have to come back to you because zoning recommendations have to come back to you. But it seems like that's the consensus. So then potentially when it comes back, this could at least go on the consent agenda. And so it didn't need to come back, but we could put it on the consent agenda going forward if they, want to simplify it based on your feedback today. And if everyone feels okay with the zoning recommendations, then at least that could be consent moving forward.
Okay.
If that is, so let me know if that does seem to be the consensus.
Okay, commissioners, are you okay with the implications that Abby's? Okay, I see a lot of nodding in.
I am not. And
okay.
In much the same way that we have certain guidelines that all of us think really need to be revised, and they come up and we would like to say you can do, that things can be built that are, it seems more appropriate to build things that are actually in conflict with the guidelines. But then we always try, and I feel the same way about zoning, to tell you the truth. Whether the zoning is appropriate or not, it is to me like the guideline, that if there's a compelling reason to request, for us to weigh in on it, I think that's one thing. I don't see a compelling reason. I think if the applicant wants to make their case to zoning themselves, that's fine. But I am just not comfortable with saying, with starting to just say that zoning is sort of an option and not actually a true guideline.
Okay, so in that case, are there any thoughts about what Anne has just said? Anybody disagree?
So
no. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Erin.
I think this is coming from, sometimes I have a hard time tracking zoning. So if I'm missing something, please let me know. But I feel like in this case, there is a bit of a compelling reason to approve or recommend approval on the zoning part as far as the bulk plane goes, because of the gable roof issue and opinions that have been expressed by commission members that the gable roof is more in keeping with design guidelines, and how this garage relates to the district and its house. But let me know if I'm missing something.
Yeah, what I was reading in the motion that Abby wrote is that in regards, one, to the setback violation, that they would like it to align more with the house than setback further into the lot, which I would agree with. And also the garage door placement on Fifth Avenue instead of into the alley. Those would be the zoning adjustments. And I would agree with both of those would be appropriate for this to be more compatible.
Okay, Brad, we cut you off earlier.
No, I would actually agree with that. I think that because of the access off of Fifth, and then as we discussed, kind of the gable forms coming out to Fifth Avenue, which is consistent with what is going on with the houses, I think that that's appropriate. So I'm in agreement with Aaron.
Okay. So what we have now, so we've agreed that it's non-contributing. It sounds like the commissioners believe the design is too complex, but we're okay with the setback, with the garage and with the gabled roof. Is that correct? Did I say that correctly? Okay, so Abby, how should we go forward then with a motion that will help?
I think in this case, if you're concerned about the complexity, you still have to deny it, because I don't feel that you can really make these zoning requests until you're making them based on a final design.
True.
And so they would just all come back then.
Okay, all right. But for the record, the applicants know that we are willing and that we understand what they're asking. All right, commissioners. Do I hear a motion from the commissioners? Erica, is that you?
Yeah, okay, I will give this a try.
Okay, great, thank you.
I move to deny application number 2021-COA-24 for the garage demolition and construction of a new garage at 495 High Street as per design guidelines 2.38, 4.18, 4.19, and 5.3 character defining features for the Driving Park Historic District, presented testimony, submitted documentation, and information provided in the staff report.
Great, thank you, Erica. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Graham, thank you. Then we will do a roll call vote.
Hold on a second.
Go ahead, Jen.
I just want to make sure the commissioners feel like the design guidelines that you've cited are appropriate for denial
appropriate.
as opposed to approval.
Jennifer, on that, would it maybe just be 4.19, which is the design of the new? I know if you
right.
The compatibility, if a friendly amendment would be to remove others and retain only 4.19.
I would
Okay.
accept that amendment.
Great, thanks, Erica. Is there a second on the amended motion?
Can I second my second on the amended motion?
I think so.
Yeah, no, you made the amendment, and so Erica approved it as the motioner, and you were the seconder. So yes, you're good.
Okay, it's clear as mud, but I believe we are ready for our roll call vote. Jeanette.
Aye.
Brad.
Aye.
Aaron.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Gary.
Aye.
Erica.
Aye.
Ann.
Aye.
Julie, I also vote aye. So the motion to deny the application has passed. And the applicant will be working with Abby and we'll see you back. All right, we go on to our next project, which is 2021-COA-022. It's 3043 Stout Street in Curtis Park, and Brittany Bryant, take it away.
1 second.
Sure.
Okay. Our next project is for a phase 2 infill submittal at 343 Stout Street, which is on a vacant lot within the Curtis Park Historic District. This is the former DHA site. It's still the DHA site. However, several of the lots are going to be redeveloped. And this is the first design detail review we've seen for this site. The commission previously approved the mass and scale on December 15th, 2020. There were no conditions on that approval at that time, but there were some discussion items stated by the commission during that review that the applicant has addressed in this submittal. As you can see, this is the vacant lot that the infill development will occur on. So the proposal is for a single family home with a detached garage. The applicant is proposing a new concrete walkway from the existing concrete sidewalk. There will be a low metal gate in the front yard surrounding the property, and then a 6-foot tall wood privacy fence at the rear of the property, located setback behind the chimney on the south side of the site. And then on the north side of the site, it will be in the same location as the south side, so it's well set back from the front facade. And then there will be a new concrete patio in the rear yard, and the AC unit will be placed behind the primary structure, and a new concrete apron. Here we have the floor plans for the project proposal. There are 2 light wells proposed in the basement level on the south side of the project. We do not have any additional details on these light wells at this time. It looks like in the floor plan that the applicant is proposing slider windows for those light wells. That is not something we typically allow, so we will need details on the light well material, details on the windows that will be installed in the light well, as they're not included in the window schedule. So that is a few of the conditions that we have on this project proposal is relating to those light wells and those light well windows. The structure is a 2-story mansard roof structure. The porch roof is proposed to be clad in standing seam metal roofing. Metal roofing was very common within the Curtis Park Historic District. However, we don't have any details on the profile or finish of this standing seam metal roof, so we are requesting additional details on that metal roofing to ensure the seam profile is typical and that it has a matte finish, as we typically require metal materials to have a matte finish, so they are not reflective. Here you can see that the applicant has adjusted the arch window meeting rail to be a bit higher than what you saw in the phase 1 submittal, and they have also aligned the architectural banding on the ground floor with that meeting rail. That was a comment made by the commission during the phase 1 review. There were also some comments regarding the gutters. The applicant is still proposing to use gutters on this project, but they are going to paint them to blend in with the building facade. So the applicant is proposing a custom arch wood door. The arched windows on the ground floor will also be a custom wood window. And then the rest of the windows are going to be aluminum clad wood on the facade and secondary elevations. The porch foundation is concrete. They are proposing a wood porch column. And then the mansard roof slope will be clad in a hardy shingle, and then the roof will be clad in an asphalt shingle. There is a folding door proposed on the rear facade, which you can see here. We do feel that this door is appropriate as it will have mullions that, when closed, look more like a fixed door operation and thicker mullion profile that we typically want to see. There is a light fixture proposed adjacent to the front door and adjacent to the rear folding door. Here we have the north elevation. We do have some smaller fixed windows on this facade and then a secondary door that allows egress from the structure. This is a Therma-Tru full light door, similar to the door that allows egress onto the porch on the front facade. Here is that south elevation. Most of the windows here are double hung in style. There is one window that is more horizontal in proportion, but we were not concerned over that window as it will have limited visibility from the public right-of-way due to the chimneys and its placement at the rear or towards the middle of the facade and will be behind a fence. The garage structure is proposed to be clad in shingle to match the slope of the mansard roof. There is one primary structure, new infill structure within the Curtis Park Historic District that is totally clad in shingle. So it's not a cladding material that you would see historically as a total cladding material. However, the commission has approved it previously on new infill construction as a total cladding material. This is just the garage structure. It will have a simple steel door. Again, those asphalt, or sorry, not asphalt, those hardy shingles, and then two double hung windows, and then a light fixture adjacent to the man door that allows egress into the rear yard. Here we have a section of the proposed building. This is a section through the entry, a section through the side of the building, and then a rear door section. As you can see, we don't have any section on that egress light well, so we will need a detail on that as well. Here is a detail of the roofing and the transition between materials, and then showing how the material color palette and the materials will interact on the structure. So the structure will be clad in a black diamond brick. And then again, that hardy shingle on the slope of the mansard roof, and then the roof itself will have an asphalt shingle, and then the structure will have a smooth finish hardy trim, which you can see here. And then you can see those gutters that will be painted to blend in with each material, as there was some concern stated by the commission over the gutters in the phase 1 review of the project. Here we have the details on the windows. Again, on the front facade, the arched windows are going to be a custom wood window, and all of the other windows are going to be a aluminum clad wood window. All the windows will be inset into the building facade, as you can see noted here. The mansard windows will have a boxy hardy surround, which is a simplified detail of the surrounds that you typically see in the mansard form within the Curtis Park Historic District. Here we have the rear yard fence and the proposed front metal gate. It is 2 feet 9 inches in height. So it is a very low design. It is black finish. The wood is a simple 6-foot vertical privacy fence. And then you also have the detail for the deck railing, which is also metal. Here you have the materials. I would like to note that the shingle will not have a smooth finish. Hardy unfortunately does not make this shingle product in a smooth finish. So while our guidelines do note to not use a wood grain finish, because Hardy does not make this product with a smooth finish, the commission has allowed this shingle product in the past. But I did feel that it was important to note that to the commission that it's not quite meeting our design guidelines there. Here we do have material samples for the windows. I would like to draw the commission's attention to the arched window on this submittal. As you can see, that meeting rail is proportional to the upper and lower sash. The lower sash is not very small on this sample. However, when you look at the window schedule, the arched window does have a larger upper sash than lower sash, which was noted as a element of concern in the phase 1 submittal by the commission. So landmark staff are requiring that the window proportions for this project mimic those as seen in the elevation. And this is actually page 37 in your submittal and not the proportions that are seen within the window schedule. So we do feel that that window that you see for the arched window in the window schedule is not reflective of what we see in the elevation. So we do have some concerns over that and request clarity on that. Here is an isometric from the north side of the project site. You can see all the colors that are proposed. Again, it's a black and gray color palette that is proposed for this structure. The front door will have a wood stain on it. And then this is just a perspective from the other side of the project. We are recommending conditional approval at this time. And the conditions are provide a light well and egress section detail, provide light well and egress well materials, and ensure they are high quality materials relating to the building foundation. Include the light well and egress windows in the window schedule and ensure that they are not a slider operation. Provide a manufacturer specification for the standing seam metal roof and ensure that it is a matte finish. And finally, ensure the arched window sashes on the front facade reflect the proportions shown in elevation and on page 37 of the packet.
All right, Brittany, thank you very much. Commissioners, have you any questions for Brittany at this point? Graham.
Brittany, this may be a question for the applicants too, but I was curious with the flare of the mansard roof. And the only reason I say this is because I also have a mansard roof and I went through the roofing process. Will the hardy board or the hardy shingle actually bend and allow to kind of match that curved flare? I know depending on the detail there and the actual depth, but also kind of the shingle configuration. I just wanted to make sure that that was constructible. I think it's a nice material, but I was wondering if you talked about that during the process.
I didn't talk to them specifically about it, but I think that would be a great question for the applicant.
Perfect. Sounds good.
Yeah. I agree, Graham. Any other questions for staff before we move on? All right, Emily, is the applicant present?
Yes, I moved them over because Emily had to take a break. So sorry.
Just when I figured it out. That's all right, Jen.
Keeping you on your toes, but I moved them over. And I think Andre might be part of this team as well. Is Brittany, do you know if he is?
I don't believe so.
No? Okay. I just couldn't remember. He wasn't on my list, so.
All right, so the applicant is with us now?
They are, yep.
Okay, excellent. So to the applicant, please state your name and your address for the record.
Hi guys, can you hear me?
Jen will show
Can everyone hear me?
her iPhone that'll have the amount of time that you'll have to speak. You've got 10 minutes and you can keep track by what Jen's holding up.
And yes, we can hear you.
I'd like to make sure Mike's on. He's the project architect.
Yeah, I'm here. I'll take over.
Great. Name and address, please.
Yep. Mike McAtee, address 2790 Josephine Street, Unit 100, Denver 80205.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Again, thanks to Brittany and the commission. Brittany always does a thorough job on explaining and making sure that our packet is put together well. So I don't have a lot to add. Just commenting on the conditions. They were kind of, they're just oversights, to be completely honest, and we agree to correct them or get the information. The light wells themselves will be concrete. We're also doing the project at 30th and Champa, and they'll be the same style of concrete light wells. And then the windows themselves will be single hung windows. The on the page 38 showing the front arched windows with the sash lower and not proportional. That was just an oversight in our packet that we didn't get corrected. And to comment just briefly on the gutters, I know that was a commission comment. We studied those and felt it best to blend in with the color of the building. That was kind of the best detail for water management and architecture as well. And we found a number of examples like that in the area. On 2840 Curtis was one. There's another one on Curtis, and then 31st and Stout, there was another one. So we feel like that matches some other examples in the neighborhood. And then just to briefly talk about the garage shingle, we just felt like using the same product and style would balance the design nicely between the garage and the house. That's why we selected that. And then to answer Graham's question, we studied in section a number of ways to build this, and the bending is more orthogonal, I guess I would say, versus like curved. And so the structure of the house is vertical. So all the 2x6s, the walls of the house go straight, and then the mansard roof slope itself is kind of built out from that. And if you look at a section, it kind of explains that in better detail. But you know, we feel comfortable with the amount of curve that we would have to lay that product over, that we think that it's kind of slight, even though it is a curve. I think it's slight enough that that product will be able to look good on it. Other than that, I'm open for questions. And again, I appreciate Brittany's thoroughness, and thank the commission for your time.
Of course. Commissioners, do you have any questions for the applicants? Graham, did that answer your question?
It did. I appreciate the description. I'll be excited to see, just from experience, Hardy Board is so unforgiving on sort of any variation or curve. I think it'll have a lot to do with the overlap and your depth of overlap there. So I'm glad that was considered. I appreciate the conversation there for sure.
Okay, thanks, Graham. Anyone else? All right. Jen, do we have any from the public that would like to comment on this?
I'm muted, sorry.
That's okay.
I don't see any hands. I'm surprised Keith hasn't raised his hand yet. There we go.
Hi, Keith.
All right. I've asked you to unmute, Keith, so you can unmute whenever you would like.
Hi, Keith.
Hi, guys. Keith Pryor, 2418 Champa Street, chair of the Curtis Park Design Review Committee. Again, another great project by this team. Really have enjoyed working with them. And it does fit within the guidelines of everything that they're proposing. I really do appreciate the attention to the detail in having the garage clad in the shingles. Again, that's one of the design guidelines in the guidelines where you're using a material that is common in the district in a new and in different way. So it does meet the design guidelines to have that on the garage, and I think it'll just be a really neat alteration of something that is usually very, I don't know, just fades off into the background. So, I think it'll be great. Definitely agree with staff and their comments. And we did send in a letter of support, supporting staff as well in regards to the windows. And so definitely think that this will be a great addition to the district, and we look forward to getting built, and it asks the commission to support the design detail per the design guidelines. Thank you.
Keith, thank you. Jen, are there any other, anybody else
I don't
like
see
to
any other
comment?
hands raised. No.
All right, commissioners, have you any, I'm sorry, Brittany, would you like to talk, you have any other comments to the commissioners before we deliberate? All right, thank you. Then commissioners, let's go into deliberation. They've done an awful lot of work here. What does everybody think about what we were asked to approve here?
Okay, guys, let's get dressed.
Julie, this is Brad. I'll
Okay.
start in. I'm in agreement with staff's comments. I think they've done a nice job with this project. I think that Graham's comments are well-founded, just to make sure that detail is done correctly. So I'm sure there's going to be some mock-ups or something to make sure that'll get detailed appropriately. But I think overall the project meets the guidelines well, and it is well done.
Thank you, Brad. Anybody else?
I think I said it the first time around, but seeing the mansard roof as a new form or an infill form is an awesome thing too. So I appreciate the slightly atypical approach there from what a lot of the info we see, but definitely a nice complementary historic piece for Curtis Park. So
yeah, I'm excited to see it. Are there any other commissioners that would like to comment?
This is Jeanette. I just.
Uh-oh.
So on the.
We're getting a lot of interference, Jeanette.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Oh, there you go. Try it again.
Okay. Is it better now?
You're kind of in a tunnel. There you go. Yeah.
Okay. Is it any better now?
Much better. Thank you.
I just wondered if anybody else had any thoughts about the window and door surround on the second floor.
About the what? I'm sorry, Jeanette.
Sorry, the window and door surrounds on the second story. I just wondered if they looked a little heavy and chunky, but I'm not that familiar with the mansard roof form. And I know a lot of times mansard roof forms have completely different sort of ways in which the windows are integrated. So I just thought I would throw that out there in case anybody thought that was worth discussing.
Okay. Any thoughts? Graham, you're the proud owner of a mansard roof.
I'm gonna say I can't call myself a mansard expert, but I live in it. So, I guess, Jeanette, my take is that I think the depth and kind of the proportions work nicely and are compatible with what I'm used to seeing. It's definitely a different or kind of more modern detail, but I think that also hits on the modern infill and kind of contemporary age of the construction. I'd be real curious to hear others' opinions as well, but I think it is certainly something that helps differentiate this as a newer infill project.
So Graham, I actually agree with you because I thought about that mansard being a lovely historical form, but I think that really does distinguish it. We're not going to just mistake this for historic, in my view. Anybody else wish to opine? Okay, is there a motion from the floor?
I'd like to make the motion.
And go for it, thank you.
I also just wanted to commend the applicant because I think it's such an original idea, and I think the drawings are really, really clear and well done. And I'm also really excited to see how this one turns out. Okay, so that being said, Madam Chair, I move to conditionally approve application number 2021-COA-022 for the Phase 2 design details at 3043 Stout Street as per design guidelines 4.2 to 4.6, 4.8, 4.16, 4.18, 4.19, 5.8 to 5.9, 5.16, 5.21, character defining features of the Curtis Park Historic District presented testimony, submitted documentation, and information provided in the staff report with the following conditions. 1, provide a light well and egress wall section detail. 2, provide light well and egress well materials and ensure they're of high quality materials that relate to the building foundation. 3, include the light well and egress windows in the window schedule and ensure that they are not a slider operation. 4, provide manufacturer specifications for the standing seam metal roof and ensure that it is a matte finish. 5, ensure that the arched window sashes on the front facade reflect the proportion shown in elevation and on page 37.
And thank you very much. Is there a second?
I'll second.
This is Brad, I second.
There were a lot of seconds in there. I think Graham won that one. We're gonna give it to Graham. Alrighty, then what we will do is we will do a roll call vote. Jeanette.
Aye.
Brad.
Aye.
Aaron.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Gary.
Aye.
Erica.
Aye.
Anne.
Aye.
And Julie votes aye as well. Congratulations. And thank you, Brittany. Next project on our agenda is 2021-COA-021, 63 West Bayard Avenue of the Baker neighborhood. And Crystal Marquez is up. Take it away, Crystal.
Great, thanks. I'm just waiting for control, I believe, of the PowerPoint.
Okay, I think that Jen just said that she lost her internet, so that would probably be me that's giving you control. Okay, here we go.
Let's see.
I can participate from my other computer, so trying to get back in and I'll give you control. Sorry, Crystal.
Yeah,
I
no
can
worries.
also change the slides if you want me to. Well, I just lost power, so never mind.
I just made you.
Yeah, I think I got it now, guys.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. So this is for the property at 63 West Bayard Avenue, which is located in the Baker Neighborhood Historic District. The house we're looking at is the brick one in the center, which was built in 1890 and is a Queen Anne style 2-story brick structure. The applicant here is proposing to replace the existing front and rear yard wood fence at the side and rear lot lines. This doesn't include the front facade fencing. And they would like to replace it with a solid wood vertical fencing, which currently exists. All the current fencing does not have any previous permits, so this new replacement fence is basically being reviewed as a new fence. The property does abut a new multi-unit development to the east of the property, which you can see to the right. And to the west is a house which has been converted to a new multi-unit structure. And on the left side, you can see the site plan here, which shows kind of where the replacement fencing will be going. So these are photos of the rear yard fencing, which will be replaced. The new rear yard fencing is 6-foot solid wood, will be minimally visible from the street, and will have a traditional solid wood picket and is located along traditional lot lines. Therefore, it does meet the design guidelines and staff has no issue with the rear yard fencing as proposed. So here is photos showing the front side lot lines where the existing 4-foot tall solid wood fence is located. And it shows it at either side. So to the far left is the west side of the lot, and then the other 2 pictures are to the right. The applicant's proposing to keep that front yard side lot fencing on both the east and west sides of the property as opaque solid wood, and states that the new multi-unit development to the east has an active alleyway, which can be seen in the right 2 pictures along the side, which warrants having a solid wood fence. On the west side, the applicant also stated that the house that is next door has been converted to a 7-unit dwelling, which they feel also needs a solid wood fence, which has previously existed to mitigate these high traffic areas. And the applicant also included a plat map from 2000, which called out existing fencing that's been in place. Although that's not in the slides, it was in the application. And so that's the information we have on that. And so this is the last slide. So on the left side, you can see that the existing fencing, although it is blurry, this has been in place since at least November of 2007. That's where the Google Street View is from. And the proposed replacement front yard fence is simple and low and is proposed not to exceed 48 inches tall. It's also compatible with fencing in the district using traditional materials that are present. However, the proposed front yard fencing is not more than 50% open and is opaque fencing, which doesn't meet the design guidelines 5.8.A and 5.8E, which requires that the fencing also be 50% open and not opaque. The applicant has shown that, the multi-unit development has that wide landscape walkway abutting the property at the east side, which basically functions as a pedestrian thoroughfare, similar to the alley at the opposite side of the block, which I included a picture of at the bottom left, which would be adjacent to 64 West Archer Place. Therefore, in this particular circumstance, it may be appropriate for the front yard fence at the east side of the property to allow for opaque fencing that is not 50% open, as it may minimize impacts on the historic structure and context. However, staff believes that the front yard west side opaque fencing adjacent to 67 West Bayard does not provide the same circumstance, and staff isn't supportive of opaque fencing at that elevation, since the existing converted multi-unit structure has no walkway along the front yard adjacent to the property. Therefore, staff is recommending approval with the condition that the front yard west side lot line fencing be at least 50% open. And that's it.
Crystal, thank you very much. Commissioners, have you any questions for Crystal, for staff? No, doesn't sound like it. Okay, great. Emily, is the applicant present?
Yep, I just moved them both over.
Oh, excellent. Okay, great. To the applicants, if you could please state your name and your address for the record before you begin to speak, and then you've got 10 minutes to talk about your project.
Hi, I'm Jacob Smith, 63 West Bayard Avenue, the owners of the house in view here. And I believe we have our fencing company representative on the line as well.
Hi, I'm Bridget Rogers, address 8288 Carriage Lane, Parker, Colorado, 80134, and I am the fence company owner.
Great, thank you. You have 10 minutes to talk about your project.
Great. And is it okay to share the screen, or is the presentation that I sent over available?
I think we can.
That's me. Yeah, I in the whole my computer needing to restart. I forgot about that. So just give me a second. I stopped your time.
With some technical issues.
No worries.
Yeah, we're kind of used to this by now.
Great.
Okay, great. You'll just have to let me know when to move the slides.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we just wanted to show you guys a little bit about the project and a little bit about the house. Obviously, we moved in here about 4 years ago. We have a great respect for the historic district and the historic preservation that is done with this house. And we put a lot of effort into making sure that we're keeping up everything as best as we're able. With that being said, part of the reason in asking for the front fence to be closed slatted is really the busyness that comes on with both of these units to the left and to the right of us. So both on the west side, the 7-plex and the 238-plex that are going to be on the eastern side here. It may have been a different question if we had known there was going to be a giant apartment complex coming up as well on the side of it when we came into this place. But we love Baker District, we love the house. We do want to maintain as much privacy as we can. One thing to note on the western side where that 7-plex is they have a 6-car parking lot back there, as well as numerous people that they invite over, bring over. And there's about 10 feet, roughly 8 to 10 feet of blacktop there that come out as that fence goes in the front, where everybody's walking by to the main entrance from the back, as well as it's a main thoroughfare because it's completely open. So whether it's people coming from the complex, from Goodwill, from around the area, they're definitely cutting through that yard. I would say on average, we probably see 25 to 30 people coming through that yard. And that's not normal foot traffic for a regular house if you just had a residential neighbor, right, with a single ownership or even a duplex. Can we go to the next slide? So here on the east side, everybody utilizes the back area there for moving in, moving out, walking their dogs. Really, really, really busy on the east side. And we can go to the south to north if we want. Right here is just a little bit better shot. Next slide. Thank you. And then here's north to south. So this is coming in and out of the back of the complex, wherever anybody's in one of the units from the back. They're going out, they're having their dogs come up. They'll be back and forth here all night long. And then go to the next slide. This is a better daytime shot of the same view. And then the next slide for me, please. And here is actually a shot of the apartment complex sitting from the front. What's overtowering in the yard here. And then go ahead and go to the next one. And then this is against the 7-unit apartment complex. They'll have a number of people coming in and out. Here's the front entrance. As you can see, they come around the side from the back parking lot into the front and go up into their apartments. There's obviously other entrances into this complex. There's one on the side, which you'll see in a second here. Go to the next slide. And you can see there's a stairwell up on this side, but basically pretty heavy foot traffic every day, all hours of the night. Many of the people here are really industry workers. They come in and off of the area. That's not all of them, and I can't speak to everybody, but most of the people that I've met are all very nice. However, with that being said, they do come in at 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning. A lot of times they're out there going back and forth. They have dogs, pets, other animals that they're bringing back and forth with them as well. Next slide. Here is their blacktop leading up to that front portion of fence here. Of course, they do have a small yard in the front that does lead to it, but this is really the main thoroughfare, the main walkway that they bring in to the front side of their building. Next slide. And just more shots down. You can keep going to the next one here for me. Here's the north side, just showing off the apartment complex. This is where all of the U-Hauls and other moving vehicles park, move everything in and out into the apartment complexes here. Go ahead, next slide. And then this is just our garage leading back to that walkway. I think obviously the backyard fence isn't in dispute here really that much. So want to make sure that we can skip past this right here. Go to the next slide for me. Another shot of the rear alley, northwest, high traffic, 6 cars really in and out of this. They park 2 back by back on the west-hand side. They park 4 right against the fence line here in the back. And all of those cars and car traffic come usually around to the front of the building. There is a couple of entrances for a few of the apartments on the back side. Next slide. Or is that it?
That's it.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And you know, the thing that we want to point out is we're going to get rid of this old fence here and really replace it with something great. It's the decision of what we can come to in replacing the new fence, right? I think when we moved in, it was definitely a known need. I'm glad we're going through the process to make sure that it's all permitted correctly and we can talk about what needs to be done there. But Bridget and her team are really going to use premium cedar, make sure that it's updated and appropriate for the area. And you know, the reality is where it's currently at to the state where we're going, plus the traffic that exists in our household being where it's located, we would love to keep it that solid slatted fence line throughout the property. Bridget, did you have anything else?
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to touch base. You guys both did a really good job of reviewing and covering everything. But like Jake just mentioned, you know, you can kind of look and see the condition of the fence now. It's not very new. It's very old. It's disintegrating quickly. And I do think a new fence with the premium cedar is going to make the house really shine and add a lot to what already exists with the beautiful historic district. And I do also, you know, want to say that, you know, that this fence has been up for 14 years and Jake and his wife, you know, bought the house under conditions that, you know, maybe when they wanted to replace the fence, that they would be able to replace it with the same, kind of not knowing. And they do have some dogs, some adorable dogs, and you know, just for their privacy and protection, a solid fence will definitely be in favor. So that's all I have to say.
All right, thank you very much. Commissioners, do you have any questions for the applicants? Gary.
This is Gary. I do. When was the alley vacated between your property and the property to the east?
You're talking the 238 unit apartment complex?
Yes, I happened to see an old aerial photograph that showed the previous development there, which showed the alley extending all the way from Bayard to the north. And it appears that that alley was vacated, which means at one time you had an alley separating yourself from the property next door, and now you don't. And I was just wondering
correct. And
circumstances of that was.
Yeah, that happened actually on one of the photos. You may actually be able to see a no parking sign on the side of it. And that was worked out in conjunction with the bank that was there. So previously it was a credit union when we moved in. And over the last number of years, I'm not 100% sure if I threw that photo in there, but it's going to be on that side. We do have a couple of no parking signs that will obviously come down when we replace the new fence, right? We worked that out with the bank that was there. So as soon as they started building this, that was actually never supposedly an alleyway. It was just a way to get into the credit union, according to the bank when I spoke with them when I moved in. So the alleyway only extends pretty much, well, it used to be all of the Goodwill trucks used to cut right through there. So all the semi trucks loading and unloading. When they moved to the new building, they closed that off, and the alleyway, which exists, is what was really written into the plans there. So it kind of curves out straight back from the Goodwill parking lot and goes into our alleyway. We still see quite a bit of traffic coming in and out of there. They cut through the alley. I don't know why they don't turn down Archer. They just love to do it for some reason.
Oh. Thank you. I was just wondering, so there was never a dedicated alley in the first place then. Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions for the applicants? Okay, I don't see any others. Applicants, thank you very much. Jen, are there any comments from the public?
Yep, Ozzy's got his hand up, so I'm going to allow him to talk. Ozzy, you can unmute yourself whenever you're ready.
Great. Great.
Hello, am I on?
Hi, Ozzy. Please give your full name and your address for the record, and then you have 2 minutes to speak.
Yes, I'm Ozzy Friedrich at 528 West First Avenue. I'm the chair of the Baker Landmarks Committee, but I am speaking as a personal opinion on this since the committee didn't have a chance to look at it. I just wanted to make an aesthetic point in support of the owner's proposal. If a solid fence is appropriate on one side of the lot, it just seems to me like it would be kind of goofy to have a different type of fence on the west side of the lot. And in addition to the case of his needs, I just wanted to throw that out. That's all, thanks.
Okay, great. Thank you. Jen, is anyone else wanting to speak?
No, I don't see other hands raised.
Okay, great. Commissioners, do you have any questions for the staff before we deliberate? Does not look like it. Okay, then let's go into deliberation. What do people think? Please share.
I'll start first. I'll say,
Thanks, Erin.
hi neighbor, I live on South Lottie. And I feel for you having this put up next to your house. I would concur with both Ozzy and the applicant that having a third type of fence would be a little bit busy and not as compatible. And so I would support having the 4-foot high solid cedar fence on both the west and the east side. And I do support the full 6-foot height fence in the back. And again, just, I think 3 types of fencing, having a solid wood fence, a slatted 50% open fence, and then the front metal fence with brick columns is just a lot going on.
Okay, Erin, how does anybody else feel? I see a lot of nodding heads. Erica, looks like you say something. Oh.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Brad.
Yeah, this is Brad. I agree with Erin, and it makes a lot of sense on the west side. There's no doubt about that. So I think introducing another type of fence is less compatible than if you just keep the same type of fence, and it's a low fence already, 4 foot. So that's where my thoughts are.
Great, Brad. Thank you. Erica?
Yeah, I guess I would just add that while I appreciate the design guidelines and their how they kind of direct on 50% openness, I think in this is a particular case where it's clearly needed on one side, and that it doesn't make sense to have it different than the other side, and that the other side is actually similar conditions, if not completely the same. So I support the application as it came in.
All right. Any other thoughts?
I would also add one friendly comment, and I'm sure both the applicant and the fence contractors considered this. When you do build a new fence, do not have the fence posts extend up above the pickets as is in the existing. Just a friendly comment.
Yeah. Yeah, good catch, Erin. Any other comments before we vote? It doesn't look like it. So it looks like we would approve without the condition. Is that correct, Crystal? Okay. Do I hear a motion from the floor, or multiple floors, I guess, at this point?
I can make that motion.
Go for it, Jeanette.
Okay. Madam Chair, I move to approve application number 2021. I'm not still doing the tunnel thing, am I? Do I sound okay?
You sound terrific.
Okay, great. Number 2021-COA-021 for the front and rear yard fence at 63 West Bayard Avenue as per design guidelines 5.7, 5.8, 5.9, the Baker neighborhood character defining features, presented testimony, submitted documentation, and information provided in the staff report.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Erin. All righty, then let's do a roll call vote. Jeanette?
Aye.
Brad?
Aye.
Erin?
Aye.
Graham?
Aye.
Gary?
Aye.
Erica?
Aye.
Anne?
Aye.
And Julie, I also vote aye. Thank you very much to the applicants and to Crystal. Thank you. We've been at this for a little bit of time. It's 3 o'clock. Would anyone like to take a very short break? Seen a couple of nodding heads. Okay, we will take a couple of minutes break. We'll meet like 3:05 with us. So let's go ahead and get going again. Thanks, everybody. Our last design review project is 2021-COA-025, 431 Acoma Street in Baker neighborhood. Abby, take it away.
Okay, so this is a mass form and context review for 2 residences with a ADU at the rear. So the LBC previously approved a zone lot amendment for this property, splitting a single lot into 2 lots on July 21st, 2020. So this building is containing 2 units that'll be on separate zone lots, though they will be physically attached. The commission also reviewed a previous Part 1 mass form and context application in July and denied that application. The previous design referenced the district's Queen Anne residences. It was 3 stories in height and had a complex porch design. The commission found that the proposed height and mass was uncharacteristic of the district and that the design was overly complex. The commission recommended that the design be revised to read as a duplex and suggested that the applicant look at other historic duplexes in the district for reference. Since this meeting, the applicant has completely redesigned the primary structure and the ADUs at the rear, incorporating feedback from the commission and working closely with staff. So following the commission's suggestion to look at other duplex structures within the district, the applicant has chosen to use the 2-story boxy flat-roofed terrace type buildings found within the Baker district as inspiration. And they've included a couple pages in their application showing some of the buildings that they've looked at for reference. So character defining features of the historic terrace type include brick construction, flat roof, boxy rectangular plan, simple form, hipped roof porches, often with simple Doric columns, separate porches for each entrance are common, a simple corbelled cornice, multiple front doors which face the street, and simple brick detailing. So here is the existing street. So the proposed infill is going where there is currently an asphalt parking lot. It's located on the northeast edge of the Baker district. The east side of the block opposite 431 Acoma is occupied by a large condominium complex constructed circa 2006. This is within the district, but constructed prior to the current landmark guidelines. However, the west side of the block, where 431 Acoma is located, retains a strong historic character, as you can see here. Property infill will be located mid-block with 3 historic properties to the south and 3 historic properties to the north, with all but the property facing 4th Avenue featuring front gabled roofs, kind of creating a strong visual continuity along the street. So here is a view of the street with the proposed infill included. So you'll see that the infill is now within the range of heights that you find on this street. So to be compatible, an infill structure should relate to the character defining features of the district, feature proportions that are similar to those found in the surrounding block context, and fit into the rhythm of the block. Successful infill is neutral and blends into the block without drawing attention away from adjacent historic structures. So staff finds that the revisions made to the design have achieved this. The new design is much simpler. The height has been significantly reduced, but the infill now better reflects patterns and proportions found in the district. Though it will be the only flat roofed one here, it is pulling from a design that is common within the district, even if the terrace form isn't found on this block. And we find that the simplicity of the form blends in, and the proportions of this design fit with the other buildings on the block. So here's the site plan. So you can see here that the 2 separate units with a central party wall, and then same with the ADUs at the back. So here you can see the facade of the proposed infill along with the 2 adjacent structures. So you can see alignment of the porch height with the adjacent, so pretty good alignment with the proportions and placement on the adjacent structure. So the overall building height fits within other historic properties in the block. Infill features a flat roof with a simple decorative parapet. It also has a rooftop structure which is set back from the facade, which provides a partial 3rd story. So it is 2.5 stories in height, but that top structure is set back more than 20 feet from the facade. to reduce visibility. Reflecting the terrace type, the infill features a simple hipped roof porches at each residential unit. The porches are aligned with the adjacent properties. Previously, the entrances on the design did not face the street. So that has been revised, and now the entrances are facing the street, following district patterns. The windows feature simple sill and lintel designs, which help provide a sense of scale. However, the window sizes and placement on the facade are irregular, mixing larger windows with shorter, narrower windows, and with the windows really pushed away from the center of the building. The fenestration of terrace styles is generally simpler, with a single door and window on the first floor facade of each unit, and either a single window or a simple paired window on the upper story of each unit. And often in that center of the upper floor, many of them feature some kind of brick detailing, to fill that center section above. So here are the side elevations. This is where you can really get a better view of that partial third story structure. So as I said, the building's 2.5 stories in height. So the half story appears as this kind of separate rooftop structure and is set back 22 feet from the facade. This significantly reduces the overall appearance of height of the building due to the rooftop structure's design, which is very distinctive, including a gable roof constructed mostly of glass and multiple different window types and configuration. The rooftop structure doesn't really seem to relate to the main mass of the building. Since it will be set back from the facade, it will be minimally visible. But staff does feel like this rooftop structure could be further simplified in its design and to help it recede from view and to kind of help it blend more with the rest of the building instead of kind of looking like a separate structure that has been placed on top of the building. So here's the rear facade. You kind of see the same thing here with that kind of looking like a separate building set on top. There's really minimal fenestration at the rear and only very small windows on the second floor. Windows really aren't in proportion with the scale of the building. Generally, you would see something a little bit larger than that, but this is the rear of the building, so it won't be, this isn't going to have any public visibility. So even though it doesn't really fit, traditional building pattern, staff isn't particularly concerned. Here you see the ADU design. So this has been significantly simplified from the previous design was taller and had overhangs and a lot of complexity. This is now just a very simple, rectangular building that really references simple garage forms in the district. It's a boxy form with a flat roof, which fits with the terrace type design of the primary structure. And staff, finds this blends well with district patterns. So here you can see kind of an aerial view, give you a little bit better perspective on that rooftop structure. So overall, staff feels that the proposed infill design, the primary structure, and the ADUs really fit well with the district. We just have a couple concerns: the design of the rooftop structure and the windows on the facade of the building. So staff would recommend approval with the condition that further study and revisions be made to these two features. The rooftop structure, we're concerned with the potential visibility and that the design and fenestration could be simplified. Staff would suggest simplifying the design and either using a flat roof or a lower pitch roof, more simpler window forms, and trying to reduce how much the rooftop structure appears to be visually disconnected from the main building, without really any visual connection to the terrace influence design of the main structure. With the windows, staff find that the placement of the narrow windows on the facade is awkward and not really fitting district patterns. We'd suggest eliminating the narrow windows on the first floor and simply having a door and single window at each duplex. which is more typical of the terrace house form. And on the second floor, staff would suggest either moving the narrow windows closer to the center of the building or eliminating these windows completely and replacing them with a central contemporary brick feature that echoes the brick designs that are seen on several of the terrace examples in the application submitted. So, recommendation for approval with condition to restudy the facade fenestration and the design of the rooftop structure prior to the submittal of a Part 2 design detail application.
Okay, Abby, thank you very much. Commissioners, have you any questions for staff at this point? Doesn't look like it. Oh, Anne does. Anne?
I have two questions for you, Abigail. One is, I didn't see any kind of zoning information, so I'm assuming that this this configuration fits within the bulk plane and so forth. Is that correct?
Yes, they could actually build much taller here. So bulk plane isn't an issue. They're allowed to build pretty much to the lot lines and go up, I think, 5 stories here. So they're well within bulk plane.
Okay. And my second question, I know that this is mass form and context, but in this particular case, do we know anything about the exterior material? Just in general?
No, I haven't asked anything about that since we do not review that until the second phase.
Thanks.
Great. Anybody else? Question for Abby? All right, doesn't look like it. Do we have anyone from the public to make comments? Or I'm sorry, we're not there yet. So is the applicant present?
Yes, he is moved over.
Excellent. Okay, to the applicant, please state your name and address, and you have 10 minutes to talk about your project. You'll need to unmute yourself if you're.
Sorry, I don't use Zoom very often.
Oh, lucky you. Tell you, lucky you.
Oh, I use plenty of others. I just don't get to use Zoom. So
yeah, your name and your address, and then you've got 10 minutes to talk about your project.
Cool. My name is Jeff Van Sandbeek. I'm the architect on this project, not the property owner. He's not available today, so you just get me. The address, my address is 10608 County Road 7, Frederick, Colorado. Yeah, so I guess I should start by thanking Abby for her help on this project. We started out going in a different direction, and honestly, I'm much happier with the design we're at right now. It's taken us a while to get there, so thanks for your patience. But essentially, what we're trying to do is just like she described, try to get this to fit with that terrace style for the duplex sort of form that's more common in the bigger neighborhood when you have multi-family units. It's a little bit unique here. Somebody asked about the zoning. The zoning here is actually, it's a GMU 8 zoning, if I remember right. So yeah, we're allowed 8 stories, and I think it's 120 feet building height with 0 setbacks on the sides, and actually a required build to on the front that's more, that would pull this building forward. So we're gonna need landmark support to get a zoning variance in order to set the building back in line with the current residences, the way it's shown right now. So that's been kind of an interesting thing for us to work through also, given that, you know, the context is a very different zone. I guess the only thing I would want to address outside of any questions that staff or that the commission may have is the concerns about the exterior materials. Right now, what we're proposing is primarily a stucco structure. There are some brick accents. There's brick on the ADU structure at the base, and then the chimneys on the primary structure are also brick. Stucco for the primary building material, and then all of the trim detailing on the building is actually steel channel. The idea is to try to reflect the built-up brick cornices that you see on the terrace style in a material that is not brick and is not overly replicative of that detailing. So we tried to do that with the front facade primarily, but wrap those same materials around the other sides of the building. So what you see there, if we jump to the front elevation, is the headers over the front, over the top of the windows are all steel channel. The sills are actually stone sills, but the headers are all steel channel. The banding above the window pad detailing is steel channel, and then the cornice detailing is also steel channel that would extend over the top of that parapet condition. The window pattern is primarily driven by the interior sort of layout, but it's certainly something that we could tweak. You know, I think it'd be a shame to give up light and air from the street by reducing the number of windows that were allowed on that street frontage. But we're certainly willing to work with staff as needed there. And then that rooftop structure is really, the design there is really the sort of a kind of a romantic idea that the owner has of that being sort of a greenhouse structure on top of the building. We've mitigated that a little bit from his original concept of truly like a conservatory on top of the structure, primarily to try to accommodate energy code requirements and not just put a glass box that's going to overheat or freeze. Try to create opportunity to do framed walls that can be insulated and use insulated glazing to try to mitigate just how out of control warm it's going to get up there in the sun. So we will still have hopefully that glass roof that we're showing and a significant portion of glass so that that sort of romantic notion of the conservatory can read through. But to some degree, the fact that it doesn't relate to what's below it is sort of on purpose, and open to discussion on that. But it was certainly done on purpose. So if it's a concern, then it's something that we should work out. So I guess that's pretty much all I have to present, but if there's any questions I can answer, I'm certainly happy to do so.
Commissioners, do you have any question for the applicant? I'm not seeing any.
Nope, I have a question. Did you, the banding you said was channel and the window headers were channel? Is that what you said? Did I get that right?
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, anything else for the applicant?
I do have one quick question. If you are looking at this kind of a interpretation of a conservatory on top, how are you going to ventilate it to mitigate that heating in the summer?
So most of the windows are operable. So we've actually shown single hung windows and sliding doors for all the glazing on the building itself. I'm waffling on what to do with the roof. Honestly, most of the time in a conservatory, you'd see an operable roof on it.
That's what I was wondering.
I don't think we can get the energy performance out of that in terms of being able to seal that roof structure, or for that matter. I mean, I know good architecture leaks, but I'd rather not have to deal with that. So, so most likely that roof is probably going to be more of a sealed construction, glass roof, and then we're going to have to work with the windows and the doors for passive cooling, and then obviously throw a lot of energy at it, I guess, for active cooling.
Okay, anything else? Doesn't look like it. Do we have any, so thank you, Jeff, thanks for being here. Jen, do we have any public comments?
Ozzy's back. Would like to speak on this one. So Ozzy, I'm
Hi,
asking you
Ozzy.
to unmute.
Hello again. Yes, I'm Ozzy Friedrich at 528 West First Avenue. I'm chair of the Baker Landmarks Committee. Really interesting to see how this project has come along. And as a personal opinion, I think the massing is far more compatible than what we saw earlier. So lots of appreciation to Landmark staff and the owner for the work they've put into shaping it and making it fit better. In our committee's original, we saw a much earlier version of this project. And one item in our letter is that we asked to see more detail on the ADU, since our committee has taken a very strong interest in ADU design in the neighborhood and a real interest in shaping the alleyscapes as they're coming together. And I don't know how this works in a process like the one that we're on right now. And certainly the owner has put in a lot of work to responding to staff issues, but I do imagine that our committee would like an opportunity to comment on the ADU if there's a way to work that into the larger process. So kind of a question, is there a way for us to review that? since there really wasn't anything there to review when we last sat down with the owner. Thanks.
I'll just maybe address Ozzy a little bit some of that question. So yeah, we didn't send it back to the Baker for referral since it had come to you previously, but I would be happy to send it to you for referral before usually we only send it a part 1 and not part 2. But if you're interested in having a chance to look at the ADU design more and comment, I could refer this to the RNO prior to the next phase in the process.
Great, Abby, thank you. Jen, is anybody else lined up to make a public comment?
I don't see anyone else, no.
Okay, great. Does the staff want to make any comments to the commissioners after the applicant?
Nope, I don't have anything else.
Okay, cool. All right, commissioners, let us begin deliberation. What are people thinking about this? If you don't volunteer, I'll pick you out. Thanks, Brad.
I'll start. So I think overall, this is a really big improvement from where we were before. I think that the mass feels very appropriate. There's a couple of things that I think I would comment on. Some of these are getting a little bit into the weeds, maybe too far into details, but I think this building type requires a little study in terms of the horizontal banding, the window headers, and the hierarchy. So I think when you look at some of the examples that were actually in the presentation, there's a hierarchy to, the window head, to the cornice line, to the cap at the top. So I think that is a further study, and that's something that can happen during the design detail phase. But I think that is something that could really enhance this building to the next level. I have staff concerns about the 3rd story volume. It doesn't seem compatible, and I think part of the issue is when it engages with the backside of the building, that makes it it feels like it wants to engage more and be more compatible and more of the language of the existing main structure of the building. I would throw out, I think that the garage and the ADU need additional study. I think it lacks some of the proportionality of the front building. I know we always say make it a very simplified version, but I think there needs to be a little hierarchy to that and study where the window placement is and how it relates better back to the main building. I think that's all I have for now. I'll probably have something else as other people start to talk. But I think overall, it's really moving in the right direction.
Yeah, I agree. Thanks, Brad. Other comments? Gary?
I agree with what Brad has said. I think, the subtlety of how detail is addressed is important, and I think Brad covered it pretty well. Regarding the window placement on the front facade, I don't have a problem with the number of windows or the fact that there are some smaller windows and larger windows, because that's something that's not all that uncommon. The smaller windows usually being bathrooms, and in one case on the main floor it is a bathroom. But I think it does need some study and perhaps looking at pairing the 2 windows on the second floor rather than having them separate. But I think it's okay. I think it just needs some subtle improvement.
Okay, Gary, thanks. And Jeanette, go ahead.
I was going to follow up. I agree about the additional windows on the front not being that much of a problem, because to me it expresses a different room in the house, and this is a wider unit than some of the other duplexes in Baker. But I agree that maybe the larger windows could be paired more and then have the smaller ones additional. As far as the top 3rd story piece, I'm really intrigued with this idea of it being a conservatory. And I don't so much have a problem with it being incompatible and it being more glass and light, but it's kind of overly busy in the fenestration and doors with, you know, multiple squarish window types and the sliding glass doors. And then like Brad said, the way it engages with the back, I feel like it's overhanging too much of the back, the way the third story piece is, where it could be restudied. But I don't have so much problem at the moment with more of an expression of glass and metal up on top as an addition. I guess it would feel more like an addition to me than a piece.
Okay.
And ideally, I would love to see the roof function and open up for ventilation.
Yeah. Yeah. Other comments? Jeanette, Ann Scott.
Hi, this is Anne. Well, I agree with what Brad said, and I think part of it may be just a function of the way it's drawn in this particular case, because it looks so incredibly flat. And I think that probably having a foundation would help, because the idea of the stucco material hitting the grass seems like there would be a lot of technical problems. And I also think that any kind of horizontal banding would help it out. The ADU looks just incredibly grim, and I'm sort of sympathetic with the RNO, because it just looks like you know, something. It just has no detail. It has no material. I have to say, kind of no love to it. And I would not be in favor of approving it the way it is right now, just for what it's worth. I also just want to speak for a minute about the false front, because when I first saw this, it just looked a little bit like a stage set. And I think the idea of using the steel section is sort of interesting and sort of odd, that you're going to see that cut section of steel, which will be quite heavy on top of the stucco. So it could be completely amazing, but I think there needs to be a lot more information about the detailing for me to be convinced that it's worth actually. It looks like maybe it's almost 6 feet higher, the top of it's 6 feet higher than the cornice, and which is making the whole building seem taller. I'm not really convinced that there's a reason for it, but I will leave it to the applicant to show us why that is actually necessary.
Okay, Anne, thank you.
Can I just jump in and say, I think it's part of the purpose is to hide the party wall between the two units on the roof.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking about that too. Any other thoughts, commissioners? All right. Do I hear a motion from the floor? So Abby, one question, the motion as written, does that, will that cover the concerns expressed by the commissioners? I feel like it does, especially with our commentary.
I think the ADU is missing from it though.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Might
could
be-
certainly add the ADU, because I think everything else is addressed, and certainly the idea of adding, you know, really looking at the proportions and detailing, that's always going to be part of that next phase anyhow. So I think that's covered, but yes, you might want to add like I mean, either way, I mean, like, it is coming back to you. So,
Right.
and I will, you know, convey your concerns about, you know, the ADU, but you could certainly say that some restudy of the ADU is part of the conditions as well.
Okay, all righty, thank you.
What about the facade fenestration? I think that related to the front, I think most people seemed comfortable with where this was. Is that true?
Well, it's good for me. It sounded like there might be some concern. Is everybody else okay with the fenestration?
Or do we leave it for the back?
Yeah, I got the impression that there might be some comfort with the number of windows, but that placement, et cetera, that there
location.
was some desire to see if that could be restudied. So I would
Yeah.
suggest leaving it.
That's kind of what I was thinking too. All right, I will leave it up to whomever wishes to give to make the motion as to whether they add the ADU or not. Commissioners, do I hear a motion?
I'll go for it.
Brad, go for it. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I move to approve application 2021-COA-205 for the mass form and context of the proposed infill at 431 Acoma Street as per design guidelines 4.1 through 4.5, 4.7, 4.8, 4.10, 4.12, 4.15, 4.16, 4.18, and 4.19. Character defining features for the Baker Historic District, presented testimony, submitted documentation, and information provided in the staff report with the condition that the facade fenestration and the design of the rooftop structure and ADU be restudied prior to the submittal of the Part 2 design detail application.
Brad, thank you. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
I think Gary got that one. All right, then let us do.
Sure.
Go ahead.
I believe that Brad mistakenly said the wrong project number. I think I heard him say 205 rather than 025. Possible and wrong.
I may have.
So I guess I would offer a friendly amendment to make sure that the project number.
Good for you. Yeah, thank you, Jeanette. Do you accept said friend?
I do accept the friendly amendment.
Thanks, Brad. Thank you for catching that, Jeanette. I did not catch that. All right, let's do we've got a second. Let's do a roll call vote. Jeanette?
Aye.
Brad?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
Graham?
Aye.
Gary?
Aye.
Erica?
Aye.
Anne?
Aye.
And Julie also votes aye. So the motion passes. Thank you very much, Abby, and to the applicant. That brings us to the end of our design review segment. When the agenda was written, there were no business items. Is that correct, Jen? We still don't have any?
That is correct.
Awesome. We do have a discussion item, and Jen is going to talk about the Denver Landmark Preservation Year 2020 year in review.
Yeah, so every year
we had a year.
Yeah. Well, I didn't show all the face masks on that, but anyway, I do every year. It's my goal to do this year in review, and the first year I started, I think in 2017, I did it in August. I didn't do it at all in 18 or 19, and so now we have one for 2020 in February, and so hopefully we'll make this an annual occurrence. So I'm going to go through some of the things that Landmark had happened with our historic districts this year, and with our designations and with our design review and some of our statistics. And actually I think Abby's controlling, so I'm just going to remove that so that you don't have to worry about that, Abby, because I'm guessing, oops, there we go. I'm guessing that that's probably driving you nuts. But anyway, so I'm going to go through these. Feel free to jump in and ask any questions, or you can do so at the end. This is just a general presentation. So for designations, we started the year with 56 historic districts. That would be a really huge number if it was 560. So 56 historic districts. We ended the year with the same number, but we did add 3 individual landmarks. So we have the Kittredge Ginsburg Forest House, which is on 26th Avenue in Park Hill. We have the Howard Berkeley Park Chapel, which is on 46th Avenue in Berkeley, and then 910 Galapagos Street, which was just designated just at the end of 2020, the Smith's Chapel Denver Inner City Parish Building. There we go. We worked on several planning projects during the year. So the Loretto Heights Small Area Plan was done, I believe, finished in 2019, and 2020 was spent heavily on the implementation of that and trying to work on zoning code and design guidelines requirements. There is going to be PUD that will go to City Council for this sometime in 2021. It's wrapping up. There are also design guidelines associated with it. And a development agreement. So I think the design guidelines are part of the PUD as just kind of the character defining features to preserve. We also, Crystal was working on the Golden Triangle regulatory package. So there was a plan for that neighborhood several years ago, and now there's a regulatory package being implemented there. And again, that will go to be part of the work in 2021 to wrap up. Becca was part of the West Area Plan team, and so she was very involved with that and still is. That's going to wrap up again in 2021. The East and East Central neighborhood plans we did a lot of review and draft feedback on that. And as part of that, we got some money to do an adaptive reuse study to figure out a good plan to help with adaptive reuse of small buildings in commercial districts, such as along Colfax. And I imagine you will be hearing more about that in 2021 as we see if we can start implementing that. That would not be a landmark initiative, but it would be something that we would be actively involved in because it would be reusing existing historic buildings or non-historic buildings. And then the Colorado Women's College, which is Johnson and Wales University, was put up for sale. And so as part of a proactive approach, we used some money to hire a consultant to do a historic resources context to understand that campus a little bit better. We kicked off the Latino Chicano context study, which Jenny filled you in on a few meetings ago. And then we also used some consultant money to hire architectural historians to do historic context on the near Northwest and near Southeast neighborhood planning areas. And that will help inform the work of those planning efforts, which will start in 2021.
I have a question.
Yep.
Before we move on, this is geared towards all the planning projects with maybe the exclusion of the Latino Chicano study. What are you all as staff doing to really focus on inclusion and equity in underrepresented communities when you're doing outreach for all these projects?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. So we aren't leading we're part of the planning services program or team for these programs. So we haven't been doing ourselves the outreach and the equity focus there, but the planning services team has. So I don't have a good answer to that because I don't know exactly what each planning effort has been. I know West Area Plan, there have been a lot of community meetings and in person as well as Zoom. And I know that they have been doing a lot to try to get people who don't necessarily have the time to come to an in-person meeting or people who don't have electronic means to come to a Zoom meeting. They have really worked hard on participation there, doing surveys, doing time when people can meet with staff as well. So I don't know specifics. I'm sorry.
Okay, it's just something I'm starting to focus on a lot at work. So I just keep thinking about it.
It's something that we have been really focused on over the last few years, is trying to increase the amount of public outreach we're doing and also the diversity of the outreach, trying to reach those populations that were not necessarily the people who have been commenting in the past, because largely people who comment on planning efforts have been people who are of an older demographic and typically white, and that's not who makes up all of Denver. So we're trying to reach out to many younger people and people of color and much more diversity I know the East and East Central groups did that as well.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. So for design review, that's a lot of the stuff that you all see. So we have a quick review program that we review projects within 1 to 2 business days. We had 281 of those. That's actually one of the lowest that we've had in many years. And I think it's because we didn't have thank goodness, massive hailstorms this year, because those are usually re-roofing projects. So we didn't see the mass re-roofing of entire neighborhoods in Denver, which is the one saving grace to 2020. We had a ton of administrative reviews. You all had a bunch of commission reviews. So that's 1,781 projects that applications that Landmark staff reviewed. Sometimes these were reviewed many times with multiple revisions and resubmittals. So this is a 5-year graph as to what this is looking like. So commission reviews, as you can see, the quicks, those are in blue. Those are much less than they have been in previous years. The purple are commission reviews, and those aren't always projects that go to the commission. So those are often things that we look at and say, oh, this definitely is going to require commission review. And then a project might be withdrawn or something like that. But you all did review a substantial number. Our biggest increase is with administrative reviews. We're really drowning in those right now. So I did some statistics on what you guys reviewed. So you reviewed 172 projects over 24 meetings. Kathy retired from the commission last year, and we welcomed Erica. So we're happy to have you on the commission, Erica. You've been a great addition, and we miss Kathy as well. But so I did a breakdown of the projects that we had for our recommendations and then the commission action. And it was fairly comparable. So you all did a few more, took things off consent a few times than we had been recommending. You had one more denial, one continuation, and then one of them was withdrawn entirely before it even got to you. So pretty comparable, which was an interesting statistic. The Lower Downtown Design Review Commission had 26 projects. It's been really quiet in Lodo this past year. And we actually had to cancel a lot of meetings because we didn't have applications. So we only had 8 meetings of that commission. We said goodbye to 2 of our commissioners, longstanding commissioners, and welcomed Andy Duckett-Emke, who many of you know in the preservation world, but also he previously served on the LPC and was itching to get back into things. So we have an open spot on that commission still right now. So again, fairly comparable in terms of what staff was recommending versus what the commission approved or their motions. We also do demolition and certificate of demolition eligibility reviews. So a total of 597 this year of those. 6 of those were demolitions within historic districts. Those are typically for non-contributing buildings. I don't think we had, or maybe we had one demolition of more than 40% of the building, of a historic building that went to you all in 2020. But most of these were for demolitions or certificate of demolition eligibility applications outside of historic districts.
Sorry, I had a question. I'm assuming that demolition number within historic districts does not count garages, or
correct? Yes.
Only primary buildings.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah, we don't issue. So yeah, we don't issue demo approvals for garages as a formal review for anywhere. So if it's in or outside of a historic district, we do review it if it's in a historic district, but it's usually tied into a certificate of appropriateness. So our reviews, as you can see, 94, little over 94% of the projects we reviewed for demolition or certificate of demolition eligibility were approved within the 10 business day period. That is our ordinance requirement. We did have a few that were withdrawn, 11 of them. We posted a total of 21, which shows a 16, but that's because we got 4 notices of intent received for a designation. We did receive 1 designation application, that was for Carmen Court, but none of them made it to City Council. Carmen Court was withdrawn due to a negotiation process. Here's a 6-year study of what these look like. So we are posting fewer percentage of the total applications that we get each year, which is kind of interesting to note. We get very, very few designation applications, as you can see, but we had a lot fewer demolition applications last year than we did in previous years. And this year, or 2020, we also had a lower number, but a little bit higher than 2019. So we also do some referrals and inquiries. This is encroachment referrals, which are in blue. That is for any private work in the public right of way. So they typically end up being cell phone poles, frankly. That's what they are. We got a lot in 2018 and 19, but because of the way that the Public Works, now Department of Transportation and Infrastructure, changed their process, we got fewer of them. Section 106 reviews, we had many, many more in 2020. We had incomplete data for 18, but we had many more in 2020 because at the beginning of 2020 or very end of 2019, there was a federal law that said that any standalone 5G cell pole needed to be reviewed as a Section 106. And so that's where that number, it was kind of the inversion of we're reviewing them as encroachments, and then we started reviewing them as Section 106. And sometimes we review them as both. And then we got a lot of general inquiries. So outreach was a big effort on our part this year to try to engage people in a digital environment. So we launched a landmark specific Instagram page in 2019. That's Denver @Denver_landmark. In 2020, we really developed themes and news items. We wanted to put staff profiles out there. So several of the landmark staff members really worked hard this past year to try to get this going so that we could get some good positive momentum after Preservation Month. Community presentations were not as many as we normally would make, which for obvious reasons. So in the winter of 2020, Kelly Wemple and I went and met with the Baker Historic Neighborhood Association at one of their monthly meetings. And we also I met with them, and my colleague Josh Palmieri met with them, I think in February sometime last year, to talk with a smaller group as well about some concerns that they were having. And then Michaela Fernhaber and I, she's the supervisor of the residential permitting team. She and I did a residential permitting in historic districts presentation to the public, and we had about 20-25 people there, so that was good. And then in the summer of 2020, we did our design review trainings for registered neighborhood organizations. We're going to do that again, but haven't scheduled it. They were meant to take place the week of the shutdown. So, so this year we'll do them sooner than later. And then Abby and I have presented twice this past year at historic Denver Realtor seminars. Abby presented on the history of architectural styles in Denver, and I presented on the what is landmark and how to go through our processes. And then Kara and Brittany and Abby have had several working group meetings to talk with the neighborhood about La Alma Lincoln Park's potential designation, and the design guidelines. And I know Kara presented to you guys on that previously. And I think we're almost done. So we did a lot of public presentations as well at professional conferences and symposia. So we had 16 presentations by Landmark staff at 6 conferences and symposia. I think that there might have been like 2 Landmark staff that didn't make a presentation this year, which was really amazing. So we, Crystal and Brittany spoke at the Heritage Ohio, had a webinar that they invited them to speak about signage in historic districts. Many of us spoke at Saving Places conference. We also spoke at the National Alliance for Preservation Commissions Forum. Abby spoke at the Michigan Historic Preservation Network Conference, and then Jenny spoke on the Adaptive Reuse Program at 2 conferences in Colorado, the Downtown Colorado's Building Small Forum and the APA Colorado Annual Conference. And now what's on tap for the next year, or this year that we're in now. So in January, we started a landmark preservation webinar series. The first one, which was, it's always the second Thursday of the month from 12 to 12:30. The first one was on just like, what is landmark? What do we do? What's the purpose of it? And all that. The second one is going to be shifted by a week. So it's February 18th because of the Colorado Preservation Conference, but it's on designations, and Kara will be leading that one. And we've got all sorts of other topics that we're going to talk about, specifics for design review, general design review, how to get a permit, like what all of that looks like from pre-app to inspections. We have one on demolition, we have one on Discover Denver. So all sorts of good webinars we're going to do each month, and they're all going on our website. We are going to complete the Latino Chicano historic context because our funding runs out at the end of the year. So that is a one-year project for sure. We're going to be doing updates to the design guidelines. I know I've mentioned this to you guys in the past. We've been doing a lot of internal conversations about what this should look like, especially through COVID. And what we realized is that we need to bite this off into chunks, into really bite-sized pieces, so that we can make changes that will that can be adopted more quickly, and then move on to the next section. So instead of just doing a 18-month, 2-year wholesale replacement of it, or update to the design guidelines, it's not a replacement. It would be more of discrete portions that we would tackle from time to time and bring those to you, and have you all very actively involved with the public feedback on this. And this needs to be public, a publicly driven process as well, because we get a lot of feedback on what these design guidelines are. And so we want to make sure that we're incorporating all of those comments into this process. We have a lot of interesting designations in the works that people have come to us about for various districts and individual landmarks. So you'll be seeing a bunch of that potentially. We're completing the West Area Plan. We're going to be completing the Golden Triangle package. Loretto will be going to City Council and all that. And we're collaborating on the near Northwest and near Southeast neighborhood plans, which are the next in the pipeline. And we have a preservation plan from 1999, and it's time to make an update to it. So we're doing some planning as to what that will look like to update our preservation plan. And that's pretty much it. There's a lot more going on, but those are the nuts and bolts.
That's awesome, Jen. Questions for Jen?
I just a comment that this is you guys do amazing work. You work super hard. I really appreciate everything that you and the entire Landmark staff do. And this is for you to say that there's more than just what you've covered is astonishing. But just a big thank you for everything that you've been doing.
Thank you.
I absolutely agree. I think you guys are amazing. I am amazed at the amount and the quality of the work that you all do.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate the positive feedback. And if you have anything that you want to work on to improve LPC at all, or our processes, you just let us know, because that's, we're all here to fine tune everything that we do.
I gotta go. I have another meeting. So see you all in
Bye,
2
Erin.
weeks.
Thanks. All right, thank you.
If nobody has any other comments for Jen, I think we're just about to adjourn. Any other comments?
Nice work.
Okay,
Great.
well, then I hope to see you all at the CPI conference next week. It's not too late to register if you haven't. But at any rate, thanks very much. Happy Groundhog Day. We are adjourning the meeting at 3:58 p.m. Thanks, everybody. Have a great evening.